Most boring in the history of the third plenary session? Communique hides the unusual. High unemployment, rampant theft, over 100 private cars in Jinan have windows smashed. China's Olympic swim team tested for drugs 200 times, US launches investigation into dark history. Peking University professor, despite 9 trillion yuan annual healthcare spend, medical access in China still challenging. Shenzhen hospital performs 2 lung transplants in one day. Netizens ask, whose lungs? It's all covered in today's China Truths. Most boring in the history of the third plenary session? Communique hides the unusual. The 20th third plenary session of the Chinese Communist Party has concluded. Observers have mockingly described it as a truly unprecedented meeting. Prior to the session, expectations were already set that the CCP would neither introduce policies to salvage the economy nor implement reforms. Despite these anticipations, the level of tedium and redundancy in the communique of the third plenary session still managed to surprise the international community. The document was replete with clichés. Voice of America reported receiving messages from a WeChat investment group in China, all of which expressed apathy towards the communique. One investor remarked, after reading it, "I still don't know what to do." Another commented more sarcastically, after reading, "The only thing left to do is applaud." Professor Feng Chongyi from the University of Technology Sydney informed Radio Free Asia that, according to the communique, Xi Jinping is firmly refusing to rescue the economy, essentially lying flat. He suggested that upon seeing this communique, the world should feel utterly hopeless. He criticized Xi's reliance on thoroughly incompetent loyalists and noted that even if Xi were to face insurmountable challenges, he would not turn back. In the face of a comprehensive crisis, he either has no solutions or simply chooses not to seek them, merely piling up political slogans instead. Media personality Jiang Sench views this third plenary session as unprecedentedly lackadaisical and chaotic, with even Xi lying flat. However, it is likely that this was not Xi's original plan. If it had been, he would have held the third plenary session last year, thus avoiding a 9-month delay. It appears Xi intended to implement significant policy changes but met with resistance from within his party. Despite this extensive delay, the issues still were not resolved. Consequently, Xi was forced to merely conclude the session, thereby reducing it to a mere formality. However, Professor Feng Chongyi interprets the treatment of high-ranking officials like Li Shangfu, Liu Chao, Sun Jinming, and Qin Gang at the session as evidence of Xi Jinping's absolute control and ongoing efforts to purge dissenters. He suggests that not completely marginalizing Qin Gang also serves to preserve Xi's own dignity, otherwise, it would reflect poorly on Xi's ability to appoint effective personnel. Professor Feng further assessed that both the power of the Central Party and Xi Jinping's personal influence are on the rise. Recent rumors of Xi suffering a stroke, he argues, mirror the dire straits of Chinese society, where both insiders and outsiders hope for his demise. They believe that the only prospect for revitalizing the Chinese economy lies in Xi's passing, as his continued leadership will only drag the economy into greater peril. Xi Jinping appeared on CCTV on the evening of the 18th, which was perceived as a rebuttal to the stroke rumors. Nonetheless, independent commentator Kai Shinkoan observed that some netizens suggested the CCTV footage was from the opening rather than the closing ceremony. Kai recommended that the international community continue to monitor Xi's public appearances to ascertain his condition. Furthermore, this plenary session raised several points of concern. Commentator Zhou Xiaohui noted that unlike previous communiques which highlighted the guiding influence of Xi thought on the Politburo, this communique failed to mention Xi thought when affirming the Politburo's efforts. It only referred to the Party Central Committee with Xi Jinping at its core towards the end, deviating from the usual practice of repeating this phrase throughout the text. Zhou also pointed out the communique's explicit call to preserve the unity of the party, a direct and unusual plea. Zhou speculated that several atypical aspects of the communique suggest that unknown events may have transpired during the closed-door session, possibly indicating challenges to Xi's authority and potential shifts within the CCP. After the third plenary session, earlier speculations regarding Qin Gang's fate and whether Peng Liyuan would join the Politburo have been somewhat clarified, though analysts remain divided on Xi's grip on power. The only consensus among observers is that the CCP will likely push China further backward post-session. Historian Zhang Lifan told Radio Free Asia that the CCP disguises regression as reform, purporting to advance reforms while in reality regressing towards a planned economy and state ownership. High unemployment, rampant theft, over 100 private cars in Jinan have windows smashed. The Chinese economy is currently facing a deepening crisis, coupled with rising unemployment rates among the youth and escalating social unrest. On July 19, a viral video depicted a scene in Jinan, Shandong, where every vehicle parked on a particular road had its windows broken, leaving shattered glass all over. The individual filming the video remarked, "The economic strain is evident. The intensity of thefts is increasing, with damages inflicted from the lowest part of the cars to the top. Not a single vehicle was left intact." As businesses face declining profits and excess labor floods the streets, incidents of theft are expected to rise. Everyone should stay alert for their safety. The police reported that more than 100 vehicles were affected in total. On July 18, Qiluidian, a news outlet affiliated with Qilu Evening News, reported that the incident took place on the evening of July 15 in the high-tech district of Jinan City. The affected neighborhoods included Jinan Courtyard, Greentown Magnolia Garden, and Bayou Mansion. The report revealed that surveillance footage captured at least 3 individuals, all around 20 years old, engaging in the act of breaking car windows and subsequently stealing valuable items from inside the cars. According to owners of the damaged vehicles, the culprits stole everything within reach, including phone holders and toe pads, not even sparing a few coins. Besides Jinan, similar incidents have also occurred in Jining, Weishan, and other locations in Shandong, involving not just the smashing of windows but also car thefts. Comments from locals included, "I was just robbed in Weishan, my car in the Xiumennu district was targeted too, be cautious, my car was stolen while it was in the garage." Recently, a group of youths stole a BMW in Weishan, and the underground parking in our community was vandalized, apparently by a group of kids. The online community has expressed despair over the economic conditions, with remarks such as, "Poverty has driven people to madness, there are indeed more people struggling to earn a living, so all sorts of things are happening, it's like we're back to the pre-2000 era, and with such high unemployment and so many young people out of work, has the crisis already begun?" Additionally, some netizens shared that after their vehicles were vandalized, the police response was not only inadequate but they were also discouraged from sharing videos of the incidents online, with comments like, "After I posted the video online, I was asked to delete it. They can't manage the thieves, can they manage us instead?" They're creating a false illusion of societal harmony. China's Olympic swim team tested for drugs 200 times, U.S. launches investigation into dark history. The 2024 Olympics are scheduled to take place from July 26 to August 11 in Paris, France. According to a report by Tencent News, all 31 members of the Chinese swimming team have already arrived in France to compete. However, the situation has quickly become tense due to issues surrounding drug testing. Yuan, the nutritionist for the Chinese swimming team, expressed his dissatisfaction with the rigorous testing regimen the team has faced since arriving in Paris. Despite being there to train and adjust to the time difference, the 31 athletes have been subjected to nearly 200 drug tests by the International Testing Agency, ITA, averaging almost 20 tests daily. Each athlete was tested between 5 to 7 times, typically during early mornings at 6 a.m., noon rest periods, and late evenings at 9 p.m. The testers have confirmed that they are merely following a pre-established testing plan. This intensive testing is not without precedent. During the 2021 Tokyo Olympics, 23 Chinese swimmers tested positive for trimetazidine, yet they were still allowed to compete, with some even winning medals. This incident was largely ignored by Chinese media, and officials explained the positive results as due to contaminated food at the hotel, thus preventing any penalties for the athletes, which caused widespread dissatisfaction. The ITA, perhaps influenced by past events, has intensified testing for Chinese athletes. Among the current team, 11 swimmers who had previously tested positive in Tokyo are included. According to the anti-doping agency's data from 2023, in a list of the top 50 athletes who underwent the most drug tests, Chinese athletes dominated with 32 entries, compared to 4 Americans and 3 Canadians. Recent reports further highlighted that in 2023, Chinese athletes were the most tested worldwide, with a total of 256 tests. This number stands in stark contrast to the combined total of 153 tests for athletes from all other countries, showcasing a significant disparity. The frequent and intensive drug testing of the Chinese swimming team has been made public, leading to significant outcry among Chinese netizens. Many have labeled the situation as outright discrimination, and while some argue that honest athletes should not fear scrutiny, others believe that complaints should be directed at the organizers rather than merely voiced domestically. U.S. launches investigation into doping by Chinese swimmers. Voice of America reported that top World Aquatics officials were called in early July to testify in a U.S. criminal investigation into 23 Chinese swimmers who tested positive for trimetazidine in 2021 but were allowed to compete. World Aquatics, the international body governing aquatic sports, previously known as the International Swimming Federation, is at the center of this inquiry. Notable among the accused are Zhang Yufei and Wang Shun, Tokyo Olympics gold medalists, with 11 of the implicated athletes set to compete in this year's Olympic Games. Chinese authorities had attributed the positive results to contaminated hotel food, a claim rejected by the World Anti-Doping Agency, WADA. On May 21, the U.S. House Special Committee on the Chinese Communist Party requested the Department of Justice and the FBI to investigate these doping allegations under a federal law that also covers conspiracies occurring outside the U.S. Brent Nowicki, executive director of World Aquatics, confirmed receiving a subpoena to testify, highlighting the case's potential significance under a 2020 U.S. federal law aimed at combating doping scandals similar to those orchestrated by the Russian government. The House Special Committee expressed concerns in a letter to the DOJ and FBI that this scandal might reflect broader strategies by China, similar to past Russian tactics to unfairly influence Olympic outcomes. This issue was also noted last month in a congressional hearing where swimmer Michael Phelps criticized the effectiveness of WADA as a global regulatory body, underscoring a growing distrust among athletes. WADA officials declined to attend the hearing. Peking University professor, despite 9 trillion yuan annual healthcare spend, medical access in China still challenging. On July 8, Phoenix Finance in Hong Kong broadcast an interview video featuring Professor Li Ling from Peking University. She discussed how, over the past decade, China's annual medical expenses have escalated at a rate surpassing those of the United States, the United Kingdom, Germany, and France. Currently, nearly 9 trillion yuan, about $1.23 trillion US, is being spent annually on healthcare in China. Despite this vast expenditure, critical issues, particularly the high cost of medical care, continue to plague the common people, leaving many unable to afford necessary treatments. Professor Li Ling highlighted that the growth rate of China's medical expenses is the highest globally, with a substantial portion of the funds being squandered. For perspective, in 1978, national medical expenses were approximately 10 billion yuan, about $1.4 billion USD, around 1 trillion yuan, approximately $138 billion US, in 2009, and have now surged to 9 trillion yuan. In a separate video segment also released by Phoenix Finance, Li Ling stated, "The biggest challenge in medical reform is changing the government." She elaborated that government-led medical reform involves a significant redistribution of interests, affecting many and thus rendering it a sensitive and high-risk issue, which no one dares to address. During her work on the healthcare reform plan, Li Ling believed that 800 billion yuan, about $110 billion US, would be sufficient to provide universal free healthcare. However, China's medical expenses have since ballooned to 9 trillion yuan, with the average citizen still significantly underserved. She emphasized that far too many people have inappropriately gained wealth, asking, Consider how many unnecessary medications have been prescribed. How many unnecessary examinations have been conducted? She further noted, catching a hospital director could reveal he has amassed several hundred million yuan. Catch another person, and they might own 100 properties. Li Ling has consistently advocated for universal free healthcare, repeatedly emphasizing that the medical expenses China incurs annually should suffice to provide it. Nonetheless, the primary obstacle is the redistribution of medical resources, which is complicated by numerous vested interests. Moreover, beyond the corruption in the Chinese Communist Party's healthcare system discussed by Li Ling, many netizens are alarmed by how the privileged elite monopolize an excessive share of the healthcare resources. In 2006, China Youth Daily, a CCP official newspaper, published an article titled "Former Vice Minister of Health Yin Dakue cites Chinese Academy of Sciences survey report, 80% of China's government healthcare expenses serve 8.5 million party and government officials." This publication sparked public outrage, prompting quick denials from CCP officials in response to the backlash. In 2023, leaked information circulated on X platform revealed that the CCP's Central Health Committee, responsible for no more than 1,000 top central and provincial officials, received 16.48 billion yuan, about $2.3 billion USD, from the central government in 2022. This amount starkly contrasted with the 5.16 billion yuan, about $710 million US, granted to the Hubei Health Commission that year, indicating that the healthcare funds allocated to these high officials are 3 times the medical insurance funds available to 60 million people in Hubei. Shenzhen Hospital performs 2 lung transplants in one day. Netizens ask, whose lungs? On July 16, reports from mainland media disclosed that 2 lung transplant surgeries occurred simultaneously at Shenzhen People's Hospital, with one set of lungs transported by helicopter from Guangzhou, arriving in just 33 minutes. The report identified the recipient of the transplant as 73-year-old Mr. Yang, hailing from Heilongjiang, who suffers from pulmonary fibrosis which causes significant breathlessness and impairs his quality of life. Mr. Yang was pre-anesthetized and entered the operating room at 8:50 a.m. on July 14 to receive his lung transplant. Concurrently, another patient, 64-year-old Mr. Yin from Dalian, Liaoning Province, who also suffers from advanced pulmonary fibrosis, underwent a lung transplant using organs sourced from within Shenzhen. The operations for both Mr. Yang and Mr. Yin were carried out at the same time and completed within a 5-minute interval. These surgeries were orchestrated and performed by Chen Jingyu, vice president of Zhejiang University Second Hospital, and Wang Guangsuo, a thoracic surgeon at Shenzhen People's Hospital. The news stirred skepticism among netizens, leading to questions such as, where did the organs come from? Whose lungs are these? Why is the origin of the lungs not disclosed? Why do I feel not pride but rather a trembling fear upon reading this news? Ordinary people have waited in line for years without such treatment, always awaiting a compatible match. Why did these surgeries go so smoothly, and I wonder which child has gone missing now? In August 2016, the World Organization to investigate the persecution of Falun Gong issued a notice stating that the surgeon mentioned above, Chen Jingyu, was seriously suspected of being heavily involved in the harvesting of organs from Falun Gong practitioners, raising serious allegations of genocide. Wang Guangsuo faced similar investigations. For more than 10 years, the CCP's crime of harvesting organs from living Falun Gong practitioners has been continuously exposed, and Falun Gong practitioners have continued to expose the CCP's evil deeds to the world. On June 25, the U.S. House of Representatives passed the Falun Gong Protection Act, H.R. 4132. This act urges the U.S. to halt the CCP-backed practice of harvesting organs from prisoners of conscience, such as Falun Gong practitioners, and mandates sanctions against those in China who participate in or assist with such organ harvesting. CCP's organ harvesting extends to general public. In recent years, the appalling actions of the CCP involving organ harvesting have spread to affect ordinary citizens, resulting in numerous young individuals going missing. In an effort to conceal the real aspects of this organ harvesting, the CCP motivates the public to donate organs and actively promotes this practice within schools, misleading minors into registering themselves as organ donors. A notable incident surfaced recently when a university student disclosed on Xiaohongshu, a popular platform in mainland China which is similar to Instagram, that during his sophomore year he had signed an organ donation agreement with the Red Cross. Last year, he received a phone call from a Red Cross representative suggesting that a recipient had been found for his heart, asking if he would agree to donate it. His response was, "I'm not dead yet." On July 13, Yang Xianhong, a noted Taiwanese media figure, human rights activist, and the founding chairman of the Taiwan Association for Human Rights, discussed on his self-media channel program Xiao Jun Taiwan Plus that over the past decade, several hundred Taiwanese had traveled to mainland China for organ transplants. He provided details including the identities of these individuals, the hospitals they visited, the doctors who performed the surgeries, and the types of organs transplanted, recording all their names. Yang Xianhong explained in his program that the CCP's organ harvesting efforts are primarily aimed at prolonging the lives of the CCP's powerful elite. A secondary motive is to generate revenue through the sale of harvested organs. Furthermore, the CCP also uses these harvested organs as a means to bribe officials from other nations. Don't forget to leave a comment in the section below to share your opinions on today's topic with us. Make sure to like and subscribe to see more interesting topics from China Truths.